Hello everyone! Thank you for joining us for the 5th session of our weekly webinar series. We are continuing the C+8 apps presentation and demo, and today we're going to talk about Prisma indicators. But before getting into it, I would like to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Hardy Schloer. Hello and welcome, Hardy.
Hello and welcome to our 5th webinar. I'm quite excited to show you something new today.
Thank you. Now, Hardy, to begin, can you tell us more about Prisma indicators? What was it created for and how can people benefit from it?
So, believe it or not, but the Prisma indicator is our simplest tool, and yet it's my favorite. And I'm going to show you today how you can use the indicator and how quickly you get very interesting information, knowledge, out of what you want to know, what you really want to know. So without further delay, let me go right to the app. Let me show you this app. It's a very simple thing, but you will be astonished what interesting things we can do with it. So let's go right in. So here it is. That is our applications. Here is the Prisma indicator. I click on open the application and boom, here it comes. That is the Prisma indicator. And here on the left side on that panel, you see the typical friends. You see on the left side here all of the 8 C+8 groups from which we can choose and which we can use. And you can choose a time element. Today we choose a month, the last month. And we would like to know what we're going to request on an hourly base as a volume indication. Okay, and what that means, I show you very quickly. Here I have already put in Mr. Elon Musk and his company Tesla as a science and technology element. So you see here is the persons and groups and geography, events, time references, science, technology, concepts, physical objects. So we use these two here. This is an object that we would like to look at. And now we are clicking on the Analyze button, and boom, here it is. Here now you see this is a volume indicator, and it shows how many times Mr. Elon Musk and Tesla were in a causational relationship in the press on an hourly basis over the last months. Very interesting, there's this big outlier here. But I like to do, before I look at this too carefully, I like to do something else. First of all, you should know that every time that you see a peak here, anywhere, you can go there and you can look at what is the underlying information here. No? And you can read that. You can also go here and you can filter out the sources to see, yeah, I want this source, not that source. Here you will find everything from the most vetted of sources down to conspiracy theory websites. You just choose what you want to include, what you want to exclude. Important is that we include everything initially so that we get a broad range of what issues people think about and to what degree. Here we see on an hourly base up to 30 items of news that took place during this time. Now we're going to add something here to this, okay? We're going to add a second series, and here we're going to add Jeff Bezos, and we add Amazon. And when you do that, you click on Analyze, and then boom, here he is. What is really interesting is this element here. As you can see, each of them have at different times their peaks. Also, you can see that Mr. Bezos seems to be much more in the news than Mr. Elon Musk. But there is one area that is really interesting, and that is right here where I circle with the mouse. There they converge both, and they had a lot of volume. If I look at this, 35 per hour. What was this all about? So let's click on this and let's bring it out. Aha! And what do we see here? The same again and again and again and again. And here they talk about the Pandora Papers. So there is something that called the Pandora Papers. Very interesting. And they are both involved. Now, when I look at this, here I can now read actually the underlying information. So there is something about how powerful people hide lots of money from public view. Well, these kind of news is often, but the Pandora Papers, that seems to be something that involves really big names. So what we do now is we create another search. I already put it in. I put in here under concepts the Pandora Papers, and voila, here is what we would call an event. And see how that event started very small, and then it became suddenly very big. It took, what, about, I would say 18, 19 hours, 20 hours. And after 20 hours, it had reached full capacity. And then it started to draw down. And if you see, what it happens here, so we have gone now down about 14 days, 15 days, 16 days, and after 16 days, nobody pays much attention to. So you see, this is something you would never be able to see with Google or with any other tool. And here you can do that instantaneously. You just put a few concepts in, a few names, and you put a time span in, and you put a frequency rate in, boom, here you have it. And that is where you become involved in creating knowledge. It's not just, show me Mr. Bezos, because you don't learn anything from that if you just use a conventional search engine. Here you get something very interesting. Now, just for interest, let's go and let's look at Mr. Bill Gates, okay? And we put in the Pandora Papers. Well, he is doing actually not too bad. He is only one time implicated, only one time in the entire time. You only see that one time, and here only one of the sources here mentioned him in a headline, okay? Why did Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates names appear in the Pandora leak? No? So now they call it a leak. No? Then here you have the information. So what I was showing you now in all of this is how we do very easily a forensic research. How do we get very quickly to exactly the documents that we really would like to look at? Now remember, you can search for anything. You can search for a medical term. You can search for a name. You can search for some technology. You can do whatever it is that you seek knowledge at. And this tool will immediately give you a quantitative understanding about whatever it is that you are defined on that C+8 panel. Now remember, in my previous talks, I was mentioning how, for example, the the uh, uh, um, the use of smartphones, the use of simple search engines, how does that not really promote you becoming smarter? In fact, there is an empirical study by Professor Dr. Spitzer from Germany that's over 300,000 people that actually you become less intelligent by using these tools. Why? Because you're not engaged. You are not actually defining what is knowledge to you. You use a search engine to entertain you. No, it's just like you're watching YouTube, to be entertained by something. But here you actually have to get involved. You have to actually understand what it is that you really want to know. You have to think about it. And then you have to create a query on our panel. And then you have to look at these things. And then you click on them and you see what is inside of them. It is much more rewarding, it's much more interesting, and it is much more educational because you begin to understand these things. You understand what is an event, for example. Now, this is a beautiful and classic example to demonstrate in a quantitative analytical model what an event looks like. Trust me, most people in this world have never actually seen that. And you will now have a tool that will give you instantaneously access to see the DNA, the signature of an event, what that really looks like. That's science. And having these kind of tools, the one that I just showed you now, actually turn you into a scientist, because you use just your logic understanding and your curiosity, and these tools will lead you to the forensic process to learn about things, find out about things, and you will know more about these things than anyone else that just relates to simplistic tools such as search engines. Thank you for your attention, and I hope this was helpful. I hope you will be looking forward to use these exciting tools that we're going to build for you and release for you in the very near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hardy. We have several follow-up questions. Can you tell us the relationship between the price forecast, decision point, and Prisma indicators apps?
Oh, absolutely. The decision point app and the price forecast are nothing other than hybrids of the indicator that I just showed. So these are indicators that have additional features, such as pricing that can be overlaid, such as, for example, the VIX, the volatility index from the stock market that can be overlaid. And we then offer additional toolboxes in order to do technical analysis on these time series models that we are showing. But it all originates with this tool. You know this tool, you will have no trouble using all the other ones because they're nothing other than hybrids of this particular one here.
Taking into account the fact that the Edain platform hosts a demo version of Decision Point that has its limitations, obviously, what more can people expect from full premium access to the tool?
Oh, they have a lot more. See, at the moment, just for simplicity, what we have done is we have put all of our tools out with already predefined queries. And the real thing comes when you use the tool over and over and over again. That means you open 4, 5, 6 versions of the same tool, and you are now walking, just like I did in my demonstration, you are now walking through a research. You look at something, you compare it with something, you find out something, you research what you find out in a different frame, and so on. So you build a bigger and bigger case by adding more and more insight to the elements that you really want to know. So the demonstration tools that we are showing right now, they're very simple. There you click, and it gives you a output. But later on, you can define yourself what you want to know. You don't use what we preloaded in the system. You can search for anything you like. That will be really interesting.
Thank you very much, Hardy.
Thank you.
That's it from me for today's session. I would now like to welcome Chris Edwards, our project manager, to take over for the live Q&A session. Hi, Chris.
Schloer, good to be back with you again this Thursday evening for our current webinar. And Hardy, we're going to start with a question here from our user groups who have submitted questions, to be followed by some of our community members that are going to join us live here in the Zoom call. So welcome again to everybody. Glad to have you back with us. And Hardy, I'm going to hit you with the first question here from Den Stiff. No, sorry. From Apan Arpin. And Apan's question to Hardy is, what and how will Edain project team develop its future projects in competition with other big projects?
That's a very generalized question, and it makes me just speculate on the future. Obviously, there's one thing that is very important, that it is Edain is supporting the global knowledge vault. To the global knowledge vault, there will be some very, very important announcements made in a few. So sorry, I had my phone here. There will be some very important announcements being made, probably end of next week. Very interesting. Anyway, that is a huge project, and when we start the global knowledge vault full scale together with Edain, there will be a huge network of universities joining in. There will be a big network of commercial participation, especially in research, in commercial day-to-day business, and so on. Wherever there is knowledge that needs to be supported in a commercial setting throughout the world. Now, the knowledge vault itself isn't a business; it is a foundation. But Edain is the ecology that is supporting it, and we can now dock here many different interests in, especially those that are dealing with the 17 sustainability goals of the United Nations, which will be a big theme for us next week. So I hope this answers your question. We cannot even begin to imagine how many different projects we will have in the future that are all intercept and all work together with Edain. There will be many all over the world. Back to you, Chris.
Yeah, sure, and certainly I think it is worth emphasizing the uniquity of of Edain as it compares to other projects, and understanding that the Edain ecology is largely in support of decision making, or as a decision support system in part, and quite unique in that sense. Now, listen, joining us here live in the Zoom call, Hardy, we have four actually participants with us, four community members. We have Benji, who's been with us previously. We have Emir Eray, Leon Benko, and Ferry Anga. Ferry Anga Saputra just joined us as well. So Benji, we'll start with you. I know you've got a couple of questions posted here. Are you live and online with us, Benji? Benji, yeah, I see you. Are you muted by chance, Benji? Do you have audio?
He's muted, yes. He needs to unmute his microphone, I guess.
Can you unmute yourself, Benji? And we'll give you the floor here with Dr. Schloer. Well, I'll tell you what, Benji, while you're attempting to sort your situation out there, let's move on to Emir. Emir, are you able to be live with us? Hello, Emir. Seems like we're for as fantastic as all this technology is, we seem to struggle with our webinars here and getting our participants live. Why don't we move then to our third guest, who is Leon. Leon, I see you're here with us also.
Yes. Hello, gentlemen.
There you go. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. Very good. How are you?
Very well, thanks. Good to have you with us. What would you like to engage Dr. Schloer with this evening?
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Schloer. Very nice to meet you. Actually, what my question is, it's basically a question about the crypto side of Edain. So I really appreciate the applications. I think they are very, very useful, and they will be useful in the future. And like you said, for commerce industry. But my question. I'm actually thinking, like, how many keys it will be required to unlock the application. Will it be just only one key, or it will be based on complexity of the process of the application?
Okay, let me say something very general here. This is really important, very important subject. There are two things that this project must achieve to be really successful. And one is that nobody that comes to the knowledge world to either get a piece of information or has several pieces of information analyzed or get anything through the tools that is useful, and nobody supposed to be asked to either subscribe to an app or buy an app or engage in long-term commitments. All it is important is that now, this moment, you want to know something. So which information I use best, which tool I use best, that should be becoming obvious through the interface that we will supply them. And you use these interfaces or these tools. They will be totally intuitive. You get the information that you want, and done. The second is that you pay absolutely the minimum possible price in order to get your information. So that means, again, don't pay for the next 500 questions you're gonna ask or whatever. You pay only for that one question, and you pay how much license fees are involved, from the various technology providers. that are necessary for the answer for that particular information, the licenses that may be due from data providers. Not everyone will give us information free. Some will say, okay, well, we give you the information, but if somebody uses it, there is a cost at that. We want to get to the exact figure of what that one question really costs. And that goes to machine time, that goes to database engine time, all of these things. They are instantaneously calculated. They result into micropayments. They are being compiled, and you get a deduction or fractional deduction of your Edain license keys. And that's it. So we want the lowest possible price for knowledge, and we want to have the knowledge come to you without any commitments of any long-term or any subscriptions or any big cost bubbles you cannot understand later. In fact, before you press the button analyze, the application will tell you how much deduction of your Edain keys you will get, and then you can say okay. If you say okay, it makes the deductions, runs the analysis, gives you the answer, and that's it. And I think that is what the real revolution is, because we actually going to give you the most complex knowledge in a way where you don't need to be a scientist with 2 or 3 doctorates in a professorship in order to understand them. We will give you interfaces where you, as a normal person, whether you are a housewife or you're a adolescent or you are a normal working person, you will be able to understand what these results are telling you. And that is packaged in the cheapest form we can do, and with the least amount of further commitment, long-term commitment. And that is a utility. And this is why we're saying we want knowledge as a utility. And that is where we want to go. And this is what we want to achieve. So I hope I answered your question. Back to you, Chris.
Sure. Thanks, Hardy. Benji, I see you're back on. Are you able to unmute and check your audio?
Hello. Can you hear me?
There you go. Hi, Benji. Yeah, welcome back, buddy. I know you've got a couple of questions for Dr. Schloer, so we'll go ahead and open the floor to you. Feel free to engage.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
So I've been checking the Prisma indicator steps on the website. My question is to doctors, what are the factors that contributes to the knowledge cost? Hello?
Did you hear that, Hardy?
Well, yeah, I'm not, Chris, did you understand it better than I did?
Yeah, here, Benji, your audio is kind of low. I'm going to go ahead and read your questions to Dr. Schloer, and then you can engage with him after he replies, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay, so Benji's first question is on the website. This is related to the last question, Hardy. On the website, I've been checking steps on how the Prisma indicators work, and my question is regarding the knowledge cost and the query results. Can you give me an idea of how long it takes to compute and the cost of the knowledge on average?
Well, there are several components that come here to play. One is a very good one, and that is the efficiency of the Prisma C+8 data model. This is something that hasn't existed ever before. And the beautiful thing about this data model is that it can reach for information through many different dimensions. One dimension is time. Another dimension is geography. Another dimension is events. Another dimension is technology, concepts, and so on. And you can then compound on top of that all kinds of filters and constraints in order to build the most complex queries you can possibly imagine. You want to know about a particular event in which a particular person had a particular interest in a particular group or in a particular a company with respect to a certain technology achieving that or that result. No? This is something very, very super specific. Now, it can be that the query gets so complex that you need to consult hundreds of billions of pieces of information. And then that may take a little bit. When a little bit, maybe seconds, maybe be even a couple of minutes. We will, and this is why we brought Dell as a partner into this project. Dell is going to build our entire back end of the knowledge vault and of the whole array that is running all these analytics engines. And these guys are doing a phenomenal job right now to optimize hardware and whole sets of hardware to really accommodate how C+8 works. So this is a commitment that we made with Dell for the next couple decades to work together to achieve ultra fast returns on these kind of pieces of information. Now, what you see right now on the teasers is not representative because that just runs on a web server and it has a few pieces, just so you get a feel for what the type of kind of information is that you see and how it looks like and so on, or can look like. There will be many more. So we will work on being super efficient, super cheap, and super to the point, in what it is that you want to know. Now remember, what we're going to be offering is not Google. What we are going to offer is to get you real knowledge about something that you want to understand in its nature, in its behavior, in its function, in its heritage, in its application, and so on. And that obviously takes a lot more computational dedication than just to run a bunch of links, in a page and present them to you. And I'm not knocking Google here. I'm just saying we are not in their space. They are not in our space. We're doing two entirely different things. Google gives you information. We're going to give you knowledge. I hope I answered your question. Back to you, Chris.
Sure, you bet, Hardy. Thank you. Amir, it looks to me like you're back and connected with us. Are you able to unmute? And let's see if you've got your audio resolved. Okay, well, Amir has posted his question in text here, but he's still in the call with us. I think he might have a microphone problem. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you his question, Hardy. The question from Amir is, my question is actually very simple. What does Edain promise us as investors, and what steps will it take for awareness in this market? The first question is, what?
I'm the scientist here, but let's put it that way. Investment is in the global rollout of knowledge. We had in the 20th century the global rollout of information. And in the beginning of the 21st century, we finally began to understand that the amount of information and disinformation and misinformation and sloppy information and not validated information and not analyzed information is all mixed in with good stuff, with good information, with good conclusion. So we have created something which we call in science Gaussian white noise. Remember in the olden days when you had these old TV sets, and when finally the TV got offline, you know, the station got offline, and you had this white noise on the screen with that horrible sound. When you ever fell asleep in front of the TV, suddenly you woke up to this terrible sound and this white flimmer on your TV. Well, this is actually what information looks like today. Now, somewhere in that white noise, there is all the cherries, there's all the good stuff, but it needs to be come out, it needs to be picked out. What Edain does, or the whole Edain ecology does, because Edain is more than just a license key, it's a whole access ecology. It actually gets you engaged with the knowledge world, where you finally, in the 21st century, have knowledge on the tap. You have, well, knowledge on the, it's a little bit of an Americanized, you know, kind of phrase here, but what it says is it's knowledge as a utility. It's something you can have anytime, anywhere, and it's not reference. It's not show me the temperature of Sydney right now. You know, that is just reference information, which we will have also, of course. There will be all kinds of reference information that you can get. Probably there will be not anyone left out, but you perhaps want to know much more than that. You perhaps want to know why you want to know what the temperature was in Sydney yesterday at 12 o'clock. What concurrently took place? What events? What is it that provoked you making that inquiry? And it will actually get you to these elements that are contextual to your question. And that is knowledge, and that is what the Edain ecology is going to bring you. So if you think that knowledge is a good investment, given that the world are in a death battle for sustainability. We are in a battle to be around in 20, 30, 40 years from now. There are all of these concepts, they're called climate change, whether it's man-made or not. I don't even want to go there, but we all know there is climate change, and it's going very much in the wrong direction. Ecology, energy, there are so many problems that are piling up, and if you want to entertain you with that, read what every year the Economic Forum in Davos, you know, prints us the 12 biggest threats to sustainability. Now, we can only become sustainable on this planet. We can only survive the next 40, 50, 60 years on this planet in the right way if we have knowledge. Knowledge on the tap, knowledge now, knowledge about something instantaneously, and filtered, and making sure you understand the sources and understand the quality of the sources, understand whether the knowledge is actually useful or not, or is coming from a source you can trust or not, and so on. Now, if you think that surviving into the future and making the future sustainable through knowledge is a good investment, or you found the perfect investment. If you are of those that believe that the world has absolutely no problems and that knowledge is not really something that is very important, and yeah, that could be true, then maybe you don't see particularly good investment here, no? But I would say this: you will be in the minority if you believe that, because the vast majority of people on this planet are now coming to the conclusion that investing in knowledge is the single most important thing we can do to achieve the 17 sustainability goals of the United Nations in the future. Back to you, Chris.
Yeah, sure. And I think worth noting to here, Amir, is in terms of what Edain is promising to investors, I think the only thing that we can really promise is that we will do everything within our power to make knowledge available, as Dr. Schloer continues to say, as a utility. I mean, I've seen another comment or another question from a user in the group on the board today, asking the question something like, why should we pay for knowledge when knowledge is free everywhere? Well, the truth of the matter is that it isn't free. Things like, how do I brush my teeth? Well, sure, that's free. There's a lot of pretty simple stuff that you can get out there in the global ecosphere, the global data sphere that's not costly. But I think if you want to solve meaningful problems with, where there's quite a variety of complexities associated with the outcome, you either go to Harvard or Stanford or Yale or some university somewhere. And not to say that Edain will do away with those things, but certainly in our efforts and our endeavors to make decisions right now, good, efficient decisions, this is a tool that doesn't exist. Edain is the first one to bring something like this to the market, and it will certainly be meaningful. And what we can do and what we are doing is ensuring that we can build this system to make it a real-time system, as Dr. Schloer has said many times, and to make it available to anybody that has the interest in accessing it.
And how about making meaningful decisions for your family, making meaningful decisions for your children? How about to show your children how to get to information that will put them in a pole position, that put them actually into the position to know more sooner, better than the next person. We all become extremely competitive in knowledge in the next 10, 20 years. That is actually the oil of the future. It's not the fossil fuel in the ground, the black stuff. It is actually really competitive information. And to get the competitive information, you need knowledge. And that is what we are delivering. Back to you, Chris.
Yeah, and I think further too, because we see a lot of questions recurring about, what are the kinds of use cases that Edain is capable of producing or supporting. And I think one of the most broad use cases really is how this will impact how a system like Edain, and certainly we're proposing that it is Edain. And whether it's Edain or something to come after us, it will happen. What we're doing is something that we're not the first ones to think of it. In fact, I'm sure there are probably people in our community that have thought, wow, if only there was a system that blah, 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 sort of like what we're doing with Edain. Consider the fact that as numbers are reported, what the global economy is something around $85 trillion a year right now. And consider that we spend on average, countries spend on average about 1.5% of their GDP in official research and development expense. That's a big number. That's $1.5 trillion a year. And if you had a system like Edain, and when you have a system like Edain, this will drastically reduce the amount of time, cost, and lack of efficiency that exists in how we perform research today. The way we perform research today is a very lengthy and time-consuming process. So, for example, if I'm a government and I want to decide or determine whether I should, put a dam on a particular river, the length of time and cost associated with arriving at a best decision the best information to arrive at that decision could take years, at a minimum, a year and a half, 2 years, and cost, many hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, depending on the size and scope and scale of the project. With a system like Edain, where all of the data that you're actually looking for, that you would have to mine through a variety of sources, is available to you in one place and correlates in a completely automated way all of those factors that you're looking for, and can do it in near real time.
Do it in a day, do it with 100 or 200 queries, and correlate the outcomes, and you're done. Now, what kind of investment is that to go from 2 years of analysis go down to a day? And that's what the Edain knowledge world system is going to provide.
So when we talk in terms of transformation and disruptability, you can kind of start to make sense of what we're talking about in this context. Now, Amir, you had another question, second part to your question, and that was, what steps will Edain take to create awareness in the market? Hardy, I'll go ahead and pass that over to you.
Yeah, well, obviously, we going to go to the places where our message will be multiplied the most. Yeah, there's some interesting developments that we have, and we will announce some of them already next week. But our voices will be heard from east to west and from north to south, anywhere. And we will be on big media. We will be in places like Davos at the Economic Forum. We will be everywhere where it counts. For example, I am giving a keynote at probably the most important environmental conference of the year in early December in Switzerland. And there are going to be about 2,500 people piped in, many live, but also a huge audience outside. Each of them will be either a CEO, CTO, or some important person of a major corporation in this world. And we will talk to these people via universities, via the UN, via many institutions and foundations and so on. We will be known everywhere. You can be absolutely sure within 6 months from today.
Okay, to keep things moving here, we're gonna move on to the next of our live guests. Mr. Saputra, are you on with us, and can you unmute, please? Mr. Saputra. Ferry, are you there? It looks like he's perhaps not connected with us. Benji is gone. Let's move on to, I think, Hardy, we've got one more person. Is Angela in the room with us? No, I don't think Angela's here either. Okay, well, listen, let's jump back over to the questions on the board. Hardy, next question here that we have from Danny Bold, and you've kind of already touched on this, but Danny Bold has asked a question about Dell, and that is, what is the main role of Dell in the Edain project?
So obviously, in the Edain project, there are two main components. One of them is software application, and the other one is that we will need incredibly powerful backends, and not a server or a laptop or a workstation. No, we will need a global fabric of technology that is working to support through the cloud as well as in many local data centers a lot of the heavy applications and the database. Now think about this. We are setting out today to build the largest place on the planet where we unite all knowledge that is available today, raw knowledge. That means any study, any piece of news, any measurement, just anything we can lay hands on, and where we can kind of understand the validity of the source. And then we break that down through C+8 in these atoms. So you have this huge fabric around the planet of these bits and pieces of information that are organized through C+8. Now, when we do a complex query, that query may literally require to go everywhere on this planet to search for specific types of properties, functions, or measurements, or text blocks, or pictures, or video clips, or sounds, or whatever you want to call it, that are somehow in the line of causality of your query. And to make that work instantaneously, so you don't have to wait for 20, 30 minutes to get a query back, but get it back fast, you need some awesome support through hardware and also the engineering of the arrays of databases that also need to work together, and so on and so forth. Dell is going to come in here and is going to support and help us to actually make this happen. So we couldn't do that unless we have the real support of a hardware manufacturer to come into this project. And these folks from Dell, they identify themselves with the needs of this project. They understand the 17 goals of sustainability of the United Nations because they are touched by that in many of their projects. They deal with all these companies that needs to find answers for sustainability and many other problems. And when I talk about problems, I don't mean necessarily problem in the classic sense, but things that need to be solved. And so, yes, you got to have a very strong commitment to have a partner on this end, not just to start out, but for decades to come. And in fact, the folks from Dell, they said to us, okay, guys, we're gonna work with you in the next 20, 30 years to make sure that this thing is gonna work and is happening. And Dell actually, at their own cost, at their own expense, are putting together right now enormous proofs of concepts to make sure that we understand how the hardware will perform and so on and so forth. So there is some serious commitment that Dell already has made. They have spent quite a lot of their own money to support this whole concept of Edain and the knowledge world. And we are extraordinarily proud and happy to have them as a partner in this project. Thank you.
Hey, Hardy, do you mind if I read the challenges narrative in the document that we discussed the other day?
Yeah, please. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, I think this will shed a little bit of light for you guys. And Hardy touched on this pretty well here right now. But if you really want to understand what the challenge is that we're tackling with Edain and why it's so difficult and why it's so vast and why it's so expansive, this is really this will really explain it. It's probably helpful to have just a little bit of IT knowledge, but in general, the challenge for Edain is to accept, and not just Edain, but I think for data science generally, the challenge is to accept any new data from any data provider at any geolocation, place that data in real time into global data structure, analyze such data, and to make its results available globally in response to different user requests from all different geolocations by using any analytics server or array of analytics servers in any of the global networks, and give the desired output through thousands of different C+8 applications hosted in different places and all in real time. So you're talking about developing, creating a completely interconnected system all over the world, capable of not only capturing, but disseminating massive amounts of information in real time, while continuously and dynamically self-analyzing, self-correlating, self-parsing, just a fully autonomous system. It's an amazing technical and technological challenge. And Dell, as certainly one of the biggest, if not the biggest IT companies in the world, there really are only maybe a handful or fewer of partners that we could choose that could serve this challenge. And frankly, as far as we're concerned, there really isn't another. It's Dell, or or the concept maybe doesn't come to life. So we'll move on, because I know we're nearing the hour mark here, and we've got some questions that have come from the YouTube portion of the webinar that was broadcast before the live session here. And Sarah, thanks for sending these over. I'll start with Nator Max. Hardy, Nator has the question: if I now buy tokens, when can I sell them? Is there any minimum time limit?
Quite frankly, Chris, you are much better equipped to do this than I do.
Sure.
This is completely on your end.
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, Nator, listen, tokens, you can sell your tokens. If you purchase tokens during the pre-sale period, the Edain license keys will list on an exchange for the first time on March the 30th of next year. So 5 months from now, almost 5 months from now. However, if you buy your tokens during the pre-sale period, understand that there is a vesting period associated with any tokens acquired during this 6-month pre-sale. That pre-sale, or that vesting, those vesting conditions can be found on the Edain website. In the tokenomics section, there is a chart there that explains how the vesting strategy works. And if you buy Edain license keys in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth period during the pre-sale, the vesting strategy is slightly different for each. Hopefully that satisfied your question. Is there any minimum time limit? And I think your question here, Nator, the second part of your question refers to, if I understand it correctly, refers to the need to hold those license keys. The answer is yes. And again, that's per the vesting conditions that I just mentioned. Next question is from Eder Pina. Eder Pina's question, Hardy, is: how is Edain Software going to make money through license fees or token tradings? That's simple enough.
Well, the Edain Software is not really the target of money making. There is so the Edain key and the value of the Edain key is in direct relation to the amount of data that is in the knowledge world that can be converted to knowledge. Since we have a continuous waterfall of data coming into the knowledge world. The knowledge world will become bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger every single day, every hour, every minute, every second. There is a finite amount of keys. Then the value of the data over the keys can only increase, continuously increase, which increases automatically the value of the license keys. Now, this is something that happens automatic, and it cannot be any other way. Remember that, you know, this is not a question about, let's say we sell sugar-coated lollipops, and yeah, this year they are in, next year they are out. Nobody buys them. We're having a bad quarter. I don't think we will ever have a bad quarter selling knowledge, because knowledge is a increasing demand for solving problems in our world. So we don't have a volatility in that respect. The idea is, obviously, Prisma is getting a license fee. People that put data in the knowledge world, they get a license fee. But these are micropayments. These are small things. The majority of making a profit, so to speak, come from the continuous support of the knowledge world, the increase of knowledge in it, and the overlay of a finite amount of keys. And that can only go one direction. It can never ever go down. So you will not see these very volatile ups and downs that you see on cryptocurrencies. This is not a cryptocurrency. This is a completely different concept, although it in a way has features of a cryptocurrency, and it has the way of satisfying certain investment ideas and reasons in the same way, but in this case much better. It is sustainable. Remember, everything you want to do has to be sustainable into the future, and that is especially true with the Edain license keys. They would be there forever, and in the beginning maybe something will cost a whole key or half a key, and in some distant years from now it will be, you know, one hundredth of a key, you know, for the same query. So the point I'm trying to make here is, we want the system, the whole ecology to be absolutely stable for those that wants to invest into the whole system. To buy these keys is to have key to knowledge, and the key to knowledge is where, as I said earlier, that is where the resources of tomorrow are. That's the oil of tomorrow. That is where we survive tomorrow with. And to get to that, you need Edain keys. It's a beautiful system, isn't it?
Okay, Hardy, I'm gonna ask one last question, and this is actually a fantastic question. We haven't heard this one much, at least not in our community groups. And this is from Peter V from the webinar. He watched and produced this question watching the webinar earlier. His question, Hardy, is, and you'll love this one, why should anyone trust, i.e. transparency, that Edain knowledge provided in response to queries is not influenced or biased to serve organizations' interests as every person or group has that pursues them?
Hallelujah, this is beautiful. I love this.
I knew you'd love this one.
Look, all my life, I am watching whether it is influencers in Washington, D.C. trying to influence world politics, people that try to influence the UN, people that try to influence what product you should buy and shouldn't buy. And I remember, the big battle in the Middle East between Pepsi Cola and Coca-Cola, and the information that was tossed around behind all of that. It was incredible. The world is entirely filled with disinformation, misinformation, and information that is purely designed to move one product ahead over another. No. We came up with a system that literally stops that. Now, this is probably a subject of a whole webinar, and this is why I don't want to go into it. We're already 7 minutes over the time limit today. So this day is not enough to explain all of this. But I can assure you this. Between source grading, between fact checking, between all of these filters that we are building into the query system, and by complete hands-off, any operator, to influence in any way, any meaning of any piece of data inside the system is completely off. So between all of these things, and there's many more things, and checks and balances that we have, this is in fact the first system where you can begin at least to trust what it tells you. And when you fully understand how to use the filtering, how to use what is a vetted source and what is a less vetted source, and sometimes, by the way, it's very important to find sources that have certain goals of influence. Why? At least you know what they want you to think. We are not here to be the policeman that says, you must believe this, but not that. No. We will give you all of it. But we will give you the opportunity to fact check it, to source check it, and statistically tell you which of the sources and even which of the people writing some of these pieces of news and analysis and whatever have you, what their history has been in terms of facts, in fact checking, in terms of source grading, and so on and so forth. So you will be able very well, to say, okay, get rid of all the fluff. I want to really get to the point of where I find the nucleus of statistically high probability of truth. And that is not hard to work out. When you have a system that is fully generalized and that from wall to wall is completely operator free of any influence, because our system is operator free, unsupervised, self-organizing. Nobody can influence the outcome of any query because all the pieces are completely generalized. Trust me, when you understand actually what we built, you will love it. It's beautiful. It really, truly is beautiful. And I'm obviously very passionate about it, and you can hear my passion out of my description and how I'm talking about it. But I have the same problems than you do. I have the problem, I don't want to be influenced. I don't want to be told by some external interest that has any interest involved but mine to tell me what I should think, how I should think about it, and how I should filter my knowledge to benefit your ulterior motives. I don't need that. What I need to know is I need to know what is real, what is at least I can never know for sure, but at least to a high probability, this is the correct or the best answer that can be given under the current conditions of all the things that we know which are that. And that's what we're implementing here. And so, yes, I think we just have gone through a period abroad. I don't want to get too deep on the subject here, but we have gone through a very, very difficult period as a global community in which so many things have been said and believed, and so many conspiracy theories are just rampaging this planet from wall to wall. It is absolutely unbelievable. And yes, some of these conspiracy theories are not conspiracies because there's elements of truth and facts and so on, and some of them maybe even entirely true. So that's why it's absolutely important is that we as humans and with our emotions and with our ideas in feelings, we are not good judges of what is real or not. We need scientific filters. We need scientific grades, and I'm talking about real science, not alternative science, not alternative facts, not this science, that science. No, there's only one science. There's only one way of how you filter and how you check facts, and that is, you know, scientific validated knowledge. And unless you implement that in a generalized system across the whole plane, you are not having something we call knowledge. You have something that's called opinion. And please don't mistake opinion for knowledge. It's one of the most dangerous mistakes you can make. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Okay, guys, we're going to wrap here. We're a quarter past the hour. And again, we'd just like to say thank you to everybody who's joined on. I know there are several people that are regularly logging in to watch our webinars, and we appreciate your support, your interest, and your comments. This is a great forum for us to be able to engage with everybody openly, transparently. And, you know, we encourage you to come back week in and week out. Listen to what we have to say, and hit us with your comments. So we're going to wrap up webinar series number 4, or rather number 5, and ask you to come join us next week for number 6, which is C+8 application introduction with a focus on the GeoMap app. The GeoMap app. So we'll be here together with Sarah and Emma and Andre in the back, together with myself and Dr. Schloer. We'll see you guys next week at 5 o'clock GMT. Thanks so much, folks.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.